Good evening. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Kettering City Council. Today's date is December 3rd, 2024. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would like to just comment, I have an injured leg. I'm not standing for the pledge in any sort of protest or any other such thing. So I will sit tight. I would now, at this moment, like to offer a short invocation. Thank you for all who serve the Kettering community. Give us enthusiasm for our work and wisdom to make the right decisions. May we remain humble and grateful for the opportunity to lead. Guide this council so that we may continue to serve our citizens with integrity and purpose, always remembering to be worthy of the responsibilities entrusted in us by our residents. Thank you. I'd like to recognize our Miami Valley Communication Council TV operator, Richard Diaz. We're so used to seeing Mike, but welcome, Richard. Glad to have you here. I'd like to call on Mrs. Fisher for a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Your Honor, I have reviewed both the workshop minutes as well as the council meeting minutes for November the 26th. I do find them in order, and I move for their approval.
Second.
Okay, the motion has been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Suddeth?
Yes.
Mayor Lehner?
Yes. I'd like to start tonight with proclamations. We have a special proclamation to present to Altar Boys Golf Team for winning the state championship. Go Altar. We have a proclamation we'd like to present to you. I'm going to ask Mrs. Fisher if she could go down and take a picture with you, or you can have me up here in the peanut gallery.
Are you going to read it?
I'm going to let you read it.
Oh, okay.
In the mic.
Let's do it all.
There's a sign, too.
I need to sign. Okay. Yeah. And Jackie, you got
We
the,
have a really cool piece of
we got that. Yep. I don't know if there's any room at Altar to hang another one, but
Give you that minute. All right, Richard. Let's hope this
Alex,
works.
you are the coach. Alex Schuster is the coach.
So I'm going to read first. This is the certificate of recognition and congratulations to the Alder High School boys golf team. The City of Kettering is honored to recognize the Alder's boys golf team for their hard-fought and successful 2024 golf season. Winning the 2024 Division II state championship exemplifies the dedication, the hard work, and the sportsmanship exhibited by all of you talented athletes. This achievement has brought distinction and honor to not only Alder High School, but to the Kettering community. It's with great pleasure that the City Council and the Kettering community congratulate you on this exceptional accomplishment and extend our best wishes for continued success. Signed by our awesome mayor. So I'm going to give this to you. More importantly, this is what you all really want.
They're going to fight over it.
3 of you will have you sign. We're going to look at this beautiful photographer right here. Oh, wait, come on. Come on, Mom. Bring it on.
Thank you. Congratulations. Come on, boys. Yeah, you got to shake everyone's hand. Come on. Right, apparently.
Congrats, guys.
Congrats.
Hang on. I
Congratulations.
want a high five.
Okay.
Let's talk about that. I want a
Congratulations.
high five. High five. Good job. Good job, you guys.
Who was the highest scorer? Or the lowest
Lowest
score?
score.
Lowest score.
I would really work the highest score.
Now, awesome.
Alex, did you want to say anything? Did you want to say anything?
No, sure. Just thank you.
Could you speak over here
Stand
at
near the
the mic?
microphone.
Whoa,
Right over there. That's why I made that turn around.
whoa.
All right. Just want to thank the city of Kettering for recognizing us once again on winning a state title. You know, these are exceptional young men that represent not only the school but the city well, and we're proud of their accomplishment this year and every year, and looking forward to next season and hopefully getting another opportunity. Thank you.
Okay. One last thing. Can you just tell us the name, since there's only 5 of them,
Yes.
who we got?
Senior Grady Tabor, junior Charlie Anderson, sophomore Matthew Crush, who is also the individual state co-champion, senior Finn Graw, junior Andrew Gokenauer, and absent tonight is TJ Crush, another senior.
Great. Okay,
Congrats.
than't you.
Congrats, you guys.
Great.
Congrats.
You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but I have a feeling you have homework.
You have homework to do.
Thanks.
That's awesome.
Okay, we also have an appointment tonight, Laura Tran to the Board of Community Relations for a term that expires 12/31/26. I don't believe Laura's here.
She's not.
I don't think either of you are Laura, so, okay. We will now start into public hearings. We do have a public hearing tonight.
Excuse me, Your Honor. You need to call for a vote on that.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, we need a motion to appoint Laura Tran.
Motion to accept?
Second.
Okay. Any objections? Seeing none? Call the roll.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Suddeth?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes. We do have a public hearing this evening. This is for Planning Commission Case 24-012- it's a zoning text amendment, and Ryan Holmesy will be presenting for the city. We have a hearing, tonight we have a hearing.
The microphone.
We have a public hearing on proposed amendments to the zoning code. The Planning Commission recommended that the proposed amendments be approved, and the Planning Commission certification packet is made part of the record. First, the city staff is going to give a presentation, and after his presentation, we will take comments from those members of the public who are present tonight and wish to be heard. Comments should be limited to 5 minutes per person. Now I will open the public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor.
Ryan?
Good evening, Council. I'm Ryan Holmesy, one of the city planners for the Planning and Development Department, and I'll give a quick overview of the zoning, not the whole zoning code, but part of the zoning code that is. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I'll go over a couple quick items in the zoning code that are linked to this amendment, just so to help the viewers at home and anyone here understand a little bit how our zoning code works when it comes to zoning districts and pattern districts. But this amendment is relatively minor in the grand scheme of things. It modifies 2 chapters of the zoning code, Chapter 1153, dealing with pattern district reclassifications, and then as a part of that, we want to amend some of our definitions in Chapter 1159. So again, just to summarize the ordinance, this amends various sections of the zoning code in order to create clearer criteria for staff and the Planning Commission to use when requests for changes to pattern district classifications. So Kettering zoning code is a little bit unique. We have both standard zoning districts and pattern districts, but zoning districts really mostly just regulate permitted uses. They also regulate lot sizes and minimum lot sizes and frontages and signage, but anything design related in terms of how the property looks, whether it's minimum setbacks, architecture, such as allowable finished materials, maximum heights, where parking lots are permitted to be located, those are all regulated by a separate map called our pattern districts. So there's a zoning district map on the screen now. This is the standard zoning district map like most cities have. If someone comes in and wants to build a medical office and they have a property in mind, The first thing we'll do is look at what's the property zoned. If it falls within the business, office, or business park zoning district, then the use is permitted. And then we will look at the pattern district to find out what it needs to look like. And this is a separate map based on the built environment of the city. In the pattern districts, these are where you regulate minimum setbacks, again, parking lot locations, required landscaping, and architecture. This amendment also includes some specific criteria that we would like to add to the zoning code for when people apply to reclassify our town center and neighborhood center pattern districts. And those are on the screen right now. These are areas of town that are well connected to the surrounding residential areas, relatively walkable. They're concentrations of commercial activity, and they're built around major and secondary intersections. A couple major examples are Town and Country and Stroop and Marshall. When the pattern district map was adopted in 2015, these areas were specifically called out as areas that would be ideal for the retention, development, and redevelopment of neighborhood business districts. So, going along with that example of the medical office I mentioned earlier, hypothetically, if someone comes in and wants to build a dental office in the city, we look at, make sure the property is zoned correctly. In the case of a dental office, that would be permitted in the office, business, or business park zoning districts. So that's, other than when they come in later to get a sign permit, that's really the last zoning related, or zoning district related regulation in the zoning code. But then the question comes, what does it look like? And this is where the pattern districts come in, because you can have a dental office that's in a mid-rise suburban style building. You can have it in an old house that's converted into an office space, or you could have it in an old downtown area. It just really depends. So pattern district would regulate the maximum building heights, where the parking can be located. If it's in a more suburban area, you could probably have parking out front. If it's an area that we want to encourage more walkability and more aesthetically pleasing streetscape environment, we might not allow parking in the front yard. And when it comes to architecture, things like permitted finished materials are included in the pattern district regulations, and then also maximum and minimum building setbacks. So that was just to kind of give a quick refresher on how our zoning code works. Tonight, we're really just talking about adding some criteria and modifying some criteria for when we get applications for people who want to change their pattern district designation. We're not proposing any changes to the standards that we review if people want to change their zoning district, just the pattern district which regulates design. The existing criteria we have, I'm not going to read all of this word for word, but the two standards on the screen now, those are the existing criteria we have when people come in and want to modify the pattern district. The first one is pretty standard. The proposed amendment is consistent with the City of Kettering's comprehensive plan and with the intent of the zoning code, or such consistency is being sought concurrently. The other one, and this is one that we want to change, is that no reclassification of land from, and those stand for village heights, village, neighborhood, and estate. These predominantly are where our residential uses fall, so the architectural standards tend to be a little bit less strict than if you're in a commercial area. But the way the code is written today, it's harder to reclassify a less stringent pattern district to a more stringent pattern district, which doesn't make, unless it's contiguous with that pattern district you want to change it to, which is a little bit cumbersome, and it creates some issues for when people might want to modify a pattern district as a part of a development, and our code today will not allow them to do it. So, again, I'm not going to read all this word for word, but on the screen now is the recommended addition to our process, to our review process for when people try to modify commercial pattern districts to residential pattern districts, and this is intended to prevent situations where properties occupied by commercial or industrial architecture are reclassified to pattern districts intended to promote residential development, aka lowers the architectural standards. It also will allow for positive recommendations to be made by staff and the Planning Commission when such redesignations would be appropriate. And then going along with that, specific to our neighborhood center and town center pattern districts, these are the areas that were specifically called out when the pattern district map was adopted in 2015 as areas that we want to promote walkable development and areas that are well connected to the surrounding residential areas. We want to create some standards that we have to review that make sure that someone doesn't come in and blow up one of those business districts by introducing a design pattern that doesn't really fit within the character of the area. And again, this is intended to prevent pattern district redesignations that would run contrary to the intended purpose of said pattern districts. In this case, it's just the neighborhood center and town center pattern districts. And finally, as a part of this, we need to create some definitions for commercial node and walkability, and this is just a pretty standard thing you want to do when you amend the zoning code to solidify what these terms mean when we get applications for amendments to pattern districts. So, in conclusion, the Planning Commission held their public hearing on this item on the 16th and then a follow-up meeting on October 21st, and at that meeting, the Planning Commission recommended approval, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions? Yeah. See none. Okay. We just take a vote? Any thoughts? Nope. Okay. All right, if there's no questions at this time, it's now time for public comments. Public comments will be limited to 5 minutes per person. Each person may speak only once. Please do not repeat material that has already been covered. Before you begin, please state your name and address. And I'd like to first call anyone who is in favor of the amendment. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the amendment? Okay, is there anyone who wishes to speak opposed to the amendment? Okay, hearing none, I will now close the public hearing. The hearing is now closed. City Council will take the matter under advisement. Legislation amending the zoning code will be considered at a future City Council meeting. Okay. We will now move on to resolutions. No, public ordinances in second reading. Okay, all right. We basically, I'm going to repeat what I just said, except this is in general for any of the legislation on tonight's agenda. Anyone wishing to speak before council with comments or new information about the legislation on tonight's agenda may do so at this time. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. Speakers must state their name and address, and comments should be addressed to council. If you have comments that are not about the legislation on tonight's agenda, there will be another opportunity for you to be heard later in the meeting. Anybody wish to speak to anything related to legislation on tonight's agenda? Okay, seeing no one, we will move on. Now we will go to ordinances in second reading. And we have one ordinance in second reading, and I will call on Mrs. Fisher.
Your Honor, I do have an ordinance to enact Section 152.08 of the codified ordinances regarding city contracts. It has been requested by the Law Department, and I do move for approval.
Second.
Let's see, I'm going to call on Mr. Hamsey. Oh, that's the one, all right. Hammer.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good evening, and good evening, members of council. The Ohio General Assembly recently adopted Ohio Revised Code Section 9.27 concerning provisions that are not allowed in state of Ohio contracts. For example, indemnification of contractors by the state or non-disclosure provisions that violate the Ohio Public Records Act. Enactment of this ordinance will put similar provisions in place for city contracts, which will hopefully cut down on negotiations with vendors over terms and conditions for city contracts that the city cannot accept. For example, the ones I mentioned in the context of the state contracts. This should be particularly helpful for online purchases where city employees have to click through terms and conditions to purchase goods and services. I recommend approval. I'd be happy to address any questions.
Anyone have any questions of Mr. Hammer? Okay, seeing none, call the roll.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Suddet?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes. Okay, I'd like to do resolutions, and I'll call Mr. Sullivan to start that.
All right. Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to use competitive bargaining and negotiated quotes to contract for the purchase of a forklift for the Parks Maintenance Department. The estimated cost is $50,000. The amount budgeted is $0. This is requested by Parks, Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts Department. I move for approval.
Second?
Okay, Mr. Bergstresser.
Thank you, Your Honor. This will be the first of several resolutions that we will ask council to approve in relation to the equipment that was lost in the barn fire that happened last month at the Parks Maintenance Center on Valleywood Drive. Most of the equipment requests will come after the first of the year. However, this forklift that was lost in the fire is an extremely critical piece of equipment for our parks maintenance operations. Therefore, we are requesting approval to purchase a replacement forklift now so that we can get it procured as soon as possible. Be happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions? Okay. Call the roll.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Suddet?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes.
We have a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into agreements with the Ohio Department of Transportation to allow the city of Kettering to serve as responsible lead agency for administration of the Galewood Street Bridge rehabilitation, city project number 03-928B, ODOT project MOT-Galewood Street Municipal Bridge, PID 122768. This is being requested by the engineering department, and there is no associated cost. I move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Bergstresser.
Thank you, Your Honor. Due to the excellent work of our engineering department staff, we were recently awarded just over $1 million in municipal bridge program funding from the Ohio Department of Transportation to do a major rehab project on the Galewood Street Bridge. This is a bridge that is in the neighborhood just to the west of State Farm Park. The bridge that was constructed in the 1960s has seen a lot of deterioration over the years, and so we will basically be doing what's called a superstructure replacement. We'll take off the existing beams, put new beams on, new deck, and then related work to that. The funds are available in state fiscal year 2028, so we will plan to bid this project either in late 2027 or early 2028. So this resolution tonight will allow us to work with ODOT to administer the project. Later, after the first of the year, we'll come back to council for legislation to enter into a contract for the design work for the bridge with an engineering consultant. But tonight, we're just asking for permission to work with ODOT to administer the project. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Bergstresser? Okay, call the roll.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Suddet?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to submit applications to the Ohio Department of Transportation's Pedestrian and Bicycle Special Solicitation Program. Is requested by the engineering department, and I move for approval.
Second?
Okay, Mr. Bergstresser.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Ohio Department of Transportation is conducting a special solicitation program to fund pedestrian and bicycle projects for really any municipality, village, county, any local jurisdiction in the state of Ohio is able to apply for these funds. Typically, we are not able to apply for ODOT's pedestrian bicycle funds, but they've had some extra funds come available to them, and so they are opening up to all jurisdictions. So we would like to apply for 3 projects, the first of which is for lack of a better term, a road diet on Far Hills Avenue between Stroop Road and Dorothy Lane. Essentially what that project would do is remove the northbound curb lane on that section of Far Hills. We have an extra lane that was built when the road was widened back in the 1960s. It's not needed essentially for the traffic volumes that we have on Far Hills. So essentially that lane would be replaced by a wider sidewalk, a shared use path, and a wider grass buffer between the street and the path for safety enhancements. We'd also like to apply for a project on Research Boulevard to conduct a shared use path between County Line Road and the 6th River development. Essentially, this project would be in conjunction with a planned ODOT bridge replacement project that's scheduled for 2027 on Research Boulevard, and would create a spur from the Iron Horse Trail that parallels County Line Road for folks to gain access to the 6th River development and be able to cross the creek to access the development. And finally, another project we would like to submit is a shared use path in the Berwyn Park area, so heading north from Berwyn Park, connecting up to the intersection of Marshall Road and Lincoln Park Boulevard. This project would be in conjunction with planned improvements to Marshall Road in 2026. This would be constructed on land that the city owns and was purchased about 5 years ago just for this purpose, for the construction of a future shared use path. So we are very, very hopeful to get funded for all of the projects, certainly, but we plan to apply to ODOT for all these projects here in the coming weeks, and hopefully we'll find out here in the next month or two if we've been funded. Be happy to answer any questions.
Great. Any questions?
I do have a question. Are these projects, do you apply for them all independent of each other? So 2 could get rejected and 1 could be approved? Is it that kind of process?
Yes, they are all 3 separate applications. The 2 bikeway projects, the Research Boulevard project and the Berwyn Park project, are going to be applied for under their short-term program, which construction would have to be underway by June 30th of 2026. The Far Hills project would need more design development, public input, wouldn't be constructed until probably 2027 if funded. That's under their long-term program that they have under this solicitation.
All right, thank you.
Good question, and 3 really good projects. I'll just keep it. Call the roll.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Suddeth?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mayor Lehner?
Yes.
I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to accept a grant from the State Homeland Security Program. The cost is $150,000. This is being requested by the police department, and I move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Creason.
Yes, Your Honor. This grant was awarded to the Kettering Police Department from the Ohio Emergency Management Agency. We submitted for this grant under the fiscal year 2024 Homeland Security Grant Program. This is to purchase a mobile barrier system in the amount of up to $150,000. These mobile barrier systems will help ensure a higher level of safety at community events.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Creason? Call the roll.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Suddeth?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mayor Lehner?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to contract with Centos for the rental and cleaning of uniforms for the city of Kettering employees. The estimated cost over 3 years is $51,850. This has been requested by Public Service Department, and I move for approval.
Second.
Hey, Mr. Creason.
Yes, Your Honor, pretty straightforward agreement. This is our uniform contract that is part of our collective bargaining agreement, and it covers the street maintenance, parks maintenance, and vehicle maintenance employees. Each division incorporates the costs associated with their particular uniform, their annual operating budget. I'd be glad to answer any questions and recommend approval.
Okay, any questions? Seeing none, call the roll.
Mr. Suddeth?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution to make supplemental appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Kettering, State of Ohio, during the fiscal year ending of December 31st of 2024. The estimated cost is $50,000 with zero budgeted. It is requested by Finance Department, and I move for approval.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Greason.
Yes, Your Honor. Earlier in the meeting, you authorized the acquisition of a forklift to replace the one that was destroyed in our Parks Maintenance barn fire. This actually appropriates the funds for that acquisition. It's important to note also that we are anticipating insurance reimbursement for this item, and a general fund transfer is requested in the event insurance proceeds are not received before the end of 2024.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, call the roll.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Suddeth?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes. Now move to ordinances and first reading.
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, I have an ordinance to provide for the table of organization, position classification plan, compensation plan, and pay schedules, and rules and regulations pertaining to conditions of work and supplemental benefits for the employees of the City of Kettering, Ohio, and to repeal ordinance number 4408-24. This is requested by the Human Resource Department. It's first reading.
First reading. We have Jenny Smith from the Human Resources Department who's going to speak on this.
Thank you, Your Honor. This proposed personnel ordinance includes a 3% wage increase for full-time, non-union employees, as well as regular part-time employees. This ordinance also modifies the pay scales for management assistant or administrative assistant positions for anyone new to the team after January 1, 2025. This ordinance proposes eliminating the full-time position of community information manager from the city manager's office. Proposed increase in the number of administrative assistant RTUs from 1 to 2, and a decrease in the authorized number of clerical aides from 3 to 2. We're going to increase the administrative assistants from 1 to 2 and decrease the clerical aides from 3 to 2 in the law department. In the finance department, we propose increasing the pay grade for the regular full-time position and regular part-time position of finance tech 1 from pay grade 3 through 5 to pay grade 4 through 6. In the Department of Administrative Systems, eliminating the position of administrative designer, adding the position of cybersecurity analyst, and increasing the pay grade for desktop support technician. Propose creating the Office of Communication and Engagement, which will consist of a full-time communication and engagement manager, a volunteer administrator, eliminating the assistant volunteer administrator position, communications supervisor, 2 communications and design specialists, and a regular part-time communication coordinator. We propose adding a regular part-time redaction specialist to the police department. In engineering, eliminating the position of design engineer, reducing the number of civil engineers from 3 to 2, adding a new full-time position of senior civil engineer, eliminating the pay scale for traffic signal technician for those appointed prior to 6/16/2014 and 6/11/2024, reducing the number of engineering techs from 3 to 2, in the Parks Recreation and Cultural Arts Department, changing the number of supervisors from 9 to 8 for special transition to supervisor transition meeting team. And lastly, adding the newly created position of sustainability manager to the Office of Sustainability. I don't have any answer any questions. That's all that changes.
Thank you, Jenny. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. this point, I would ask, well, but before I do that, before I go to certifications and petitions, since we're on the subject of employees, I'd like to officially welcome Bill Sherhart, who's the new Director of Parks and Rec Department. He's returning to us after a little hiatus at Five River Metro Parks, but we're delighted to have him back. And if there's anything you want to say?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. It's been a great orientation. This is day 2 for me right now, so still learning. Well, as I've mentioned to many people, my reference point and data points are 10 years old at this point. So I've encouraged folks to not assume that I know things or recall things from a long time ago. But staff have been incredibly welcoming and gracious, and looking forward to just engaging with the team more. And we have a lot of special events coming up this month, which will probably be part of Mr. Greason's report, and look forward to celebrating with everybody here in the coming weeks.
Well, welcome back. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you.
Okay. At this point, I'd like to ask Mrs. Hayslip if she has any certifications and petitions tonight.
Your Honor, we do not have any certifications or petitions this evening.
Okay, thank you. We'll then move on to the manager's report with community update. Mr. Greason.
Your Honor, I want to echo your welcome to Mr. Sherhart, our new director of the Park Recreation. We're glad to have him as part of our leadership team. He's going to do great things. I also want to take the opportunity to thank Mr. Bergstresser, because as we've been going through the recruiting and hiring process of Mr. Sherhart, Mr. Bergstresser's warranted assistant city manager hat, his city engineer hat, and also his director of Park Recreation and Cultural Arts hat. He is probably more pleased than any of us.
No, his wife is probably.
Yes, but we want to thank him for his for ably steering the ship in this period of transition. So welcome, Bill, and thank you. We want to again highlight that Medicare open enrollment began October 15th, and we have somebody who can give information and point residents to resources who are interested in enrolling in Medicare, and that's Natalie Storms, our Senior Services Coordinator. She can be reached at the number on the screen. If you're like me, I was raking leaves even in the cold weather this weekend to make sure that I got them out for our crews. Because beginning December 2nd, Monday, we started our trying to go through the districts in numerical order so that we can get the leaf season, hopefully pickup season over with soon. So please rake your leaves to the edge of your lawn, but not into the street where they'll block traffic or cause a hazard to the storm drains. And certainly if you want to track the progress, you can do that online or call our public service department. One of my favorite events, and I know yours, is the Mayor's Tree Lighting. Just to highlight, that is Friday, December 6th, 6 to 8 p.m. in Lincoln Park Civic Commons. And we welcome the community to come out and join us in this cherished tradition. In addition to lighting the tree, we're going to have a holiday arts festival December 7th, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at our beloved Rosewood Art Center on Olson Drive. And we encourage people to come out and interact with artists, see the demonstrations, and learn more about the wonderful things that are happening at Rosewood. If you don't get your leaves all the way out by the time we're done picking them up, you need to know that we also have a yard debris drop-off center at 1840 Woodman Center Drive. Summer and winter hours are on the screen. This is something I know our residents take advantage of a lot. And, information is on the screen, and if you need more, certainly call us or check out the Service Department's website. We have a Christmas Day gathering, December 25th, of course, at the Latham Senior Center. And this is an opportunity to enjoy a free hot meal with friends. It's a great community gathering supported by many of our outstanding volunteers. And we would encourage anybody who may not have the opportunity to have as many family around, to come be a part of our family, have a great gathering in the Lakers. And lastly, we want to wish everyone a happy holidays. Remind everyone that the administrative offices will be closed on December 24th and Wednesday, December 25th for the holidays. And would highlight that, as well as the change in the trash service. So due to the Christmas holiday, Rumpke service will be delayed for one day, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday customers. So Wednesday, of course, will move to Thursday. Thursday will move to Friday, and Friday we'll move to Saturday on that holiday week. Place your trash and recycling at the curb the night before, and if you have any questions, you can contact Rumpke at the number on the screen. And just our order of business for the remainder of the year, our final meeting, it's hard to imagine, our final meeting of 2024 of the City Council is Tuesday, December 10th. The workshop will begin at the normal time at 6 p.m. City Council meeting 7:30. That's my report, Your Honor. I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. At this point, I'm going to offer it again. If anyone wishes to come speak before City Council, please come down to the podium. Each speaker will have a 5-minute limit. Speakers are asked to state their name and address. Is there anyone who would like to speak before City Council tonight? Nope. We'll move on then to City Council reports, and we'll start with Mrs. Fisher.
Well, Your Honor, I had the opportunity to attend a open house last night. It was put together by Hope for Kettering. And I will tell you, this is a very large community moving group that is going to serve 1,000 children between Kettering and Centerville. The two organizations are coming together to serve 1,000 kids, which brings me to the Giving Tree. 510 kids are going to be served through our Giving Tree that if you've picked up a tag off of the tree in the Government Center, over at the Rec Center, at Latham. And then I'm also putting together Christmas baskets for 130 families that are going to be concentrated in the 45420 zip code area. Why am I sharing this? I'm sharing this because I think we have a wonderful community that puts arms, love, and gifts around those that can't provide or that are unable to provide maybe this year for whatever reason. So if you're not involved, you should be involved. There's lots of ways to be involved. And I just thank all the residents for being a part of all these movements that take care of others that might need a little bit of leg up. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you, and thank you for your service. That's really cool. You cook all these meals yourself.
That was very busy. It was Thanksgiving.
All right, I wanted to talk about the Sustainability Committee, of which I'm the City Council liaison. We had a meeting in November, and we had a group present to us. So 2 people came in and they showed us this website. It's En-ROADS, EN-ROADS. And it's really cool. It was created by MIT, and it's 19 different sliders, and it shows you their projection of how the temperature will rise by the year 2000 or 2100. So far away. But you can kind of mess with all the sliders and see how different, deforestation, if that slid down a little bit, how that would help with the temperature not rising, or at least not rising as quickly. And so there's 19 sliders, and I just liked messing around with it and seeing, some of them didn't have as big of an impact as I would have thought. Some of them had bigger impacts. So it's kind of just a cool, model to play with. And it was interesting, the folks from MIT said models are usually wrong, which I thought was interesting because they created the models, but they said they're very informative, so they can help drive decisions and things like that. So it's pretty neat. I would recommend you check it out. You can play with things like transportation, building and industry, energy efficiency, population growth, things like that. So that's En-ROADS, EN-ROADS, if you want to check it out. But that's it for me.
Thank you.
Just want to mention that as it gets colder, keep your neighbors and elderly and kids in mind, keep them safe in the cold, and want to give a shout out to the city road cleaning and snow removal teams. And apparently if we did have a big winter storm, those winters, they end up doing 975 miles of street cleaning, which is the same as if we drove from here to Orlando. So that's quite a bit of work. And looking forward to the tree lighting on Friday. That's about it.
I had the pleasure of attending a business opening yesterday for a hair salon called Citrus and Cinnamon. And the fascinating thing to me on this is a second generation family opened up a different family business of a Fairmont grad and a long-term Kettering resident who lives in Kettering, so I call them double citizens. They live here and they operate their business here. So shout out to this woman for starting her business in Kettering. I guarantee you she'll be successful. Shop local.
Shop local.
Get your hair done local.
Get your hair done local.
Ladies.
So in December, we don't have the Leadership Academy, MVCC doesn't meet, and First Tier Suburbs doesn't meet, so I have nothing to do. Except I'm excited about the tree lighting, and I also want to welcome Bill. I'm excited you're here, and I'm glad to see you in a meeting. That's it.
I'm very excited to hear about Hope for Kettering. I'm there Saturday wrapping gifts over a few hours, so if you're volunteering at the event, look for me out and say hi. But also this week, BCR, the Board of Community Relations, met briefly just to finalize details around an expansion of what used to be the Martin Luther King essay contest for students. It is now a Black History Month event, and we've expanded it to all the elementary schools all the way up to high school. So there's some big changes to that program, moving it from MLK specific to Black history, with some prompts for video essays around inventors and legislation and the movement to equality. So we're very excited about all the work that's gone into that, and a lot of credit to the leadership of BCR and staff for expanding that program in February. And I'm just really excited about Friday night. The weather looks pretty good. You're very well versed on your new wheels. So we'll see everybody 6 o'clock Friday night at Lincoln Park Commons.
Thanks a lot, Brandon. Yeah, and I wouldn't miss the tree lighting. They will be wheeled in and wheeled out, and hopefully not crack on the other concrete in the middle. But it is a wonderful event for the community. Oh, and if you have a dog, be sure to bring your dog to the event. I'm not quite sure how dogs got into the tree lighting. Can you import? You might have been around when that decision was made, Bill.
Well, I don't recall that decision, but and so it's a little bit of a play on words. So Santa Paws will be there, and so we're attracting that dog market out there, that big industry. So I know Mrs. Cheerhart also loves her dogs, and so definitely planning to make an appearance.
Well, I was going to bring my dog, but anyone who's ever met my dog has told me not to. But I will be.
Doggy my dog. Her dog is a hot mess, though.
Those of you who attend the Christmas Day event, remember that we'll leave on Sunday this year. Remember it was last year. But people who have done it here over the years might be able to hold on. So, wait. That's about all I have. Not really exciting much these days. Finally watched the last episode of Lost. I do know